Bryce Young is 5'10", 204 pounds. And right now he's the starting quarterback of a Carolina Panthers team that just won its first division title since Cam Newton. The same Bryce Young who, 2 years ago, was the punchline of every draft conversation about whether a quarterback that small could survive a single NFL season. The same Bryce Young who, when measured at the Combine, came in as the second shortest quarterback ever invited to that event in the history of the league. And yet here he is in January, getting ready to walk out for his first ever postseason start, while a generation of taller, more prototypical passers sit at home watching it happen. Young is not an outlier. He is the latest entry in one of the most stubbornly alive traditions in football, which is the tradition of the league being completely wrong about how tall a quarterback needs to be in order to be great. So today we're going through the entire lineage, from the smallest man to ever line up under center in the modern era, to the kid currently leading Carolina into the postseason, because the story of the under 6-foot quarterback is one of the most fascinating arcs in the sport. Before we get to the players, you have to understand what they were up against. The NFL has historically wanted its quarterback to be 6'3", 220 pounds, with a cannon arm and a clean view over the offensive line. The entire scouting industrial complex has been built around finding that exact prototype. The thinking has always been that a shorter quarterback cannot see the field, that his passes get batted down at the line, and that defenders will tee off on him because his frame cannot absorb the punishment. Every quarterback on this list has had to wear some version of those concerns, and almost every single one of them has spent his career proving that prototype wrong. If you want to start at the very beginning of the under 6-foot quarterback story, you start with Eddie LeBaron. He was generously listed at 5'9", but later admitted he was actually closer to 5'7". He was nicknamed Little General. He played in the 1950s and 60s, and he was the first ever quarterback in Dallas Cowboys history when the franchise selected him in the expansion draft in 1960. LeBaron made 4 Pro Bowls and served in the Korean War in between his football seasons. He somehow held down a starting job in an era when defensive linemen could basically do whatever they wanted to a passer. He never had a winning season as a starter, but the fact that a guy his size was even on the field in the leather helmet era of pro football is genuinely remarkable. He set the template for every short quarterback who came after him. Then came Fran Tarkenton, who was listed at 6 foot. He fundamentally changed what a smaller quarterback was allowed to do on a football field. Tarkenton played from 1961 to 1978, primarily for the Vikings and the Giants. When he retired, he held every meaningful career passing record in the league, including yards, touchdowns, completions, and attempts. He made 9 Pro Bowls, played in 3 Super Bowls, won an MVP award, and is one of only a handful of quarterbacks ever to win 124 games as a starter. His nickname was the Mad Scrambler because he was the first quarterback to truly weaponize his mobility. He broke the pocket and created outside of structure in a way that nobody at the position had ever really done before. Tarkenton is in the Hall of Fame, and you could draw a direct line from him to every mobile under 6-foot quarterback who has come along since. While Tarkenton was redefining mobility, Sonny Jurgensen was redefining what a 5'11" quarterback could do from inside the pocket. Jurgensen played from 1957 to 1974 for the Eagles and the Washington franchise. He is widely considered one of the most accurate passers of his entire era, despite often playing behind some of the worst offensive lines in the league. He won 3 NFL passing titles, including one at the age of 40. He made 5 Pro Bowls and was eventually inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame coaches have said that Jurgensen had the strongest arm and the quickest release of any quarterback they ever coached. The fact that he was doing that at 5'11", while taking absurd punishment because his teams could not block, just makes the resume even more impressive. If there's a patron saint of short quarterback chaos, it's Doug Flutie. He stood 5'10" on a generous day, and he built one of the most beautifully weird careers in football history. Flutie won the Heisman Trophy at Boston College in 1984. He threw the Hail Mary against Miami that's still on highlight reels 4 decades later. And then he proceeded to play professional football for 20 straight seasons across 3 different leagues. He spent 8 seasons in the Canadian Football League, where he won 3 Grey Cup championships and 6 Outstanding Player awards. Then he came back to the NFL with the Buffalo Bills and won Comeback Player of the Year in 1998. He drop-kicked an extra point at age 43. He was the kind of player who should not have worked at any level, and instead, he became one of the most beloved football players of his entire generation, simply because he refused to accept that he was too small to play. Drew Brees is the quarterback who finally forced the league to take the under 6 foot conversation seriously. His career numbers are not just good for a short quarterback, they are first ballot Hall of Fame numbers, period. Brees was officially listed at 6 foot, but anyone who stood next to him knew he was closer to 5'11", and that was the exact reason he slipped to the second round of the 2001 draft, despite setting school records at Purdue. What he did from that point forward fundamentally rewired how front offices think about height. He won a Super Bowl with the New Orleans Saints. He took home the Super Bowl MVP. He made 13 Pro Bowls, broke the all-time NFL passing yards record, and finished his career with over 80,000 passing yards across 20 seasons. There's a real argument that Brees is the most accurate passer in the history of the sport, and he did it as a supposedly too short quarterback that nobody wanted in the first round. People do not usually think of Michael Vick as a short quarterback, because he played the position with so much athleticism that height was simply not part of the conversation. But he was officially listed at 6 foot, which puts him on this list. Vick is, statistically and visually, the greatest running quarterback in NFL history. He has over 6,000 career rushing yards at the position. He made 4 Pro Bowls and won Comeback Player of the Year in 2010 with the Eagles. What Vick proved is that if a shorter quarterback brings enough athletic juice to the table, the entire conversation about height becomes irrelevant. The defense has too many other things to worry about. He was the bridge between the classic mobile quarterback of the Tarkenton era and the dual-threat archetype that completely defines the league today. And then we have the modern proof of the concept, Russell Wilson. He measured 5'10" and 5'8" at the Combine, which made him at the time one of the 4 shortest quarterbacks ever invited to that event. That single measurement is the reason he fell to the 3rd round of the 2012 draft, despite a college career at North Carolina State and Wisconsin that included a Rose Bowl appearance and a 72% completion percentage as a senior. The Seahawks took him 75th overall. He beat out a free agent Matt Flynn for the starting job in training camp. And in his rookie year, he tied Peyton Manning's rookie record with 26 touchdown passes. 2 years later, he became the shortest quarterback in NFL history to win a Super Bowl. He threw for over 200 yards as Seattle absolutely dismantled the Broncos 43-8 in Super Bowl 43. He's made 9 Pro Bowls and broken multiple Seahawks franchise records. At this point, the case for him as a Hall of Famer is just a question of when, not if. Kyler Murray's selection at number 1 overall by the Arizona Cardinals in 2019 was the moment the NFL officially gave up on the idea that a 5'10" quarterback could not be a franchise player. Because you do not spend the first overall pick on a guy if you genuinely believe his height is a fatal flaw. Murray was a Heisman Trophy winner at Oklahoma. He was also a first-round MLB draft pick by the Oakland Athletics. He's one of the most uniquely athletic humans to ever play the quarterback position in any era. He's made 2 Pro Bowls and run for over 3,000 yards in his career. He led the Cardinals to the playoffs in 2021 before injuries and roster turnover started to derail things in Arizona. He is now in his first season with the Minnesota Vikings, which gives him a fresh start, and his career to this point is yet another data point in the argument that height is just not the variable the league once thought it was. Which brings us all the way back to where we started. Bryce Young, the kid who measured exactly 70 inches at the Combine, which made him the 2nd shortest quarterback ever to attend the event. He was selected number 1 overall by the Carolina Panthers in 2023, despite weighing in at 204 pounds, soaking wet. The first year and a half of his career was rough. The Panthers were a mess, the offensive line was bad, and Young was getting hit on basically every drop back. But the kid never really wavered. He's gotten better in every single season of his career. He just led Carolina to its first division title since the Cam Newton era, and the Panthers are reportedly going to pick up his 5th-year option this spring, with a contract extension likely to follow. The smallest quarterback ever taken 1st overall is now the starting quarterback of a playoff team, which means that whatever conversation the NFL still wants to have about height, it is mostly being had by people who have not been paying attention to the actual evidence. From Eddie LeBaron in his leather helmet to Bryce Young in the modern playoff bracket, the under 6 foot quarterback has been the most consistently undervalued archetype in football. and the league has been wrong about him for roughly 75 straight years. Drew Brees is going to the Hall of Fame. Russell Wilson is going to the Hall of Fame. Franz Harkington and Sonny Jurgensen are already there. Kyler Murray was the first overall pick of his draft. Bryce Young was also the first overall pick of his draft. And Doug Flutie is genuinely one of the most beloved football players of the last 50 years. The pattern is so clear at this point that it almost stops being a pattern and it just becomes a fact. Height is the single most overrated trait in quarterback evaluation, and the proof is in the resumes of every man we just talked about. If you enjoyed this one, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments which under 6-foot quarterback you think had the best career of all time. That is genuinely a top 5 debate in football history, and I want to hear it. Thanks for watching.